I love that you guys are together because these are two of my favorite shorts, and I guess the ones most obviously connected to sound. So first of all, Kim, the Dinosaur Barbarian song is indeed stuck in my head. What was that process for you of creating this, essentially what would be a theme song to a series I very much want to see?
Well, with my original pitch for Dinosaur Barbarian, I had included a poem. I'm not a professional songwriter, but I knew the major beats I wanted. I knew I wanted what I wanted to display on screen, and so what the words needed to be to go with that. And I also knew I wanted to condense a 3-act structure down into 90 seconds. I was connected to the composers, the Mondo Boys, through Disney Music. And I had a meeting with them where I showed them my poem. I talked them through what I wanted it to be. And I played sort of like the inspirational music that I used when writing my poem. They took all of that, went away, and came back with the first draft of the song, which is almost exactly what you just heard. Like, oh, wow. What you heard is slightly adjusted, but they pretty much nailed it on the first go, which was amazing.
I love that. Oh my gosh. Now, I also love the exploration, of visuals versus sound in songs to sing in the dark. And I just love how, the title is songs. So I was like, oh my God, another musical. But then it was really just like how these different sounds can make music, if you will. So what was the process of finding, say, the perfect sound for each creature or each emotion that creature was giving out?
So there's a lot of musicians in my family. And I've always been kind of interested in sort of the line between noise and sound and song. It's like there's a range where it could kind of be either. And it's almost like how percussive and regular it is, how in tune and harmonized it is. And you can kind of bleed in and out of one another very easily. And I'm also very interested in how animals in particular kind of bleed in and out of that. Like there are some animals we hear where it's like, oh, that's so beautiful, like a bird, and then we think of like a deer, and they're not as musical, but it's like in their own way, that's song to them.
I love that. Okay, so in the Dinosaur Barbarian song, it says he has to impress the princess, right?
Yes.
Does he impress the princess? Would you ever be able to continue this so that we see many ways in which he attempts to impress her?
It was important for me that the story not end with that, because I think that you should, if you're someone who's bettering yourself, it should be for you and not for someone else. I used her only as the inciting incident because I think sometimes people need an outside opinion to help them realize they need to get their stuff together. But it actually was very important to me. I got the question in production of like, should we see that pay off? And I was like, I don't think so, because I think it's about him and his journey and not, only doing it for someone else.
I love it's like the jumping off point for, fanfics, if you will.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's more story that exists in my brain, but we'll see.
Yeah. I really felt like Riannon, the song Sing in the Dark is kind of like actually exploring like the bounds of imagination in terms of animation. So for you, I guess it's like, how do you express what you want to see in your mind? Like, what is the process for you of getting it out on paper or on computer graphics? I don't
Actually, both in the case of both. Sort of both.
Oh, wonderful. So can you tell me the process of like going from your mind to the visual medium?
So it's a hybrid short. So there's 2D and 3D in Songs to Sing in the Dark. And I was trying to think of like, because logistically we have not an unlimited budget. So it kind of made sense like, okay, so these things are kind of ever present and don't change shape. And those are the creatures in the cave. But then there are other things that do need to change shape, which are the sound holograms that they make. And it was somewhat logical, but then also sort of a creative decision where it's like, oh, so the 2D isn't quite real. It's sort of in the mind of the observer. But then there's also these sort of real creatures and the cave. And it was a little bit practical and a little bit like just sort of a happy marriage of mediums. It's always kind of weird how that works if you're going about a project the right way, where you'll have things that kind of cosmically, magically come together and they just work for a given idea.
I love that. Now, for both of you, what is I read that you were each given an advisor to help work on the project. So what is that back and forth like? And then how different is it for you to now act as the director of your own team instead of being in your specific section of Disney, if you will?
So for me, I was paired a little bit with Eric Goldberg. He was busy on other productions at the time, but he was very gracious about coming to dailies. I could go into his office whenever I needed advice. He even designed some of the holograms in the short. So he was very involved and very enthusiastic. He is such a sweet person and very, very good at what he does. Very fast too. Like there was one hologram. I must have been out of his office for only 3 hours, and he was just like fully rendered when I came back. And I'm like, how did you do that? That's so fast.
My creative advisor was Mark Henn, which was amazing. He has brought to life so many characters that I've loved as a child. It was invaluable having him, just in terms of advice about 2D. He gave story notes. He gave character design thoughts about the Barbarian. We had great conversations about what we could and couldn't show. He was kind of my sounding board for that. And I remember it was a conversation with him where we landed on cutting a tentacle instead of something else, because tentacle juice that's safe. That's just tentacle juice, you know? And then we also made sure to show the tentacle later with a Band-Aid on it. So nobody died, you know, octopus dude is fine. So that was amazing there were many surreal moments where I was sitting in a room full of, absolute superstars of respective disciplines showing off this like topless character that came from my brain. Oh geez, I should have said topless.
He's free flowing.
He's free flowing. Yeah, it's a warm climate. He's dressed appropriately.
Exactly. It's evolutionary. No, the second part of the question was going to be, I think you guys went from a specific, area of expertise or specialization that you're doing in your Disney projects to now getting to direct your own little short. So how different was that experience for you? If you want to start right now.
It was really great getting to meet people from all through the pipeline. That to me was one of the best parts about working in Short Circuit, is that it's like you're just kind of closed off in animation. So you get to know the animators really well, maybe like the directors and stuff on a couple movies, but now you're like traveling to every department and you get to see and meet so many new faces and just really come to appreciate the talent. And like you find out like, oh, hey, like this editor, he worked on a film that you loved back in the 90s, or like, oh, this lighter worked with so-and-so camera guy on this other project. And he can bring that expertise to your short. Just such an incredible wealth of talent. And fortunately, I guess I had done most parts of the pipeline before, so I was somewhat familiar with most of it. And I even kind of did parts and pieces of a lot of different parts of the pipeline. One of the ones I really did not know much about was lighting. And I really leaned heavily on my lighting supervisor, Olan Riley. And he was fantastic. Like he was very present, did lots of like pickup shots later on when we needed to do more. He was fantastic.
That's wonderful.
And kind of the same as Rihanna for me. My usual job is being a CG character animator at Disney. And so I don't have any professional experience with 2D. So I leaned very heavily on not just my advisor, Mark, but also a lot of very talented artists in the studio who maybe started in the 2D days, but transitioned to doing CG for the features. Now going back to their knowledge from before and like sharing with me stories of working on the 2D films and like how we could translate that into the Short Circuit pipeline. So honestly, it was such a group effort. It felt a lot like just sort of like supporting everyone in creating awesomeness.
Well, it was awesomeness. You guys shorts were both brilliant. And I cannot wait to see more from you and more from Short Circuit. Thank you so much.